Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Many Mistakes Ago podcast. So, I'll say last time because it was not a week ago, we talked about creating habits and routines that stuck. Well, I now want to introduce intentional living. And this is more so incorporating habits and routines that are based off of more value driven goals versus maybe like success driven goals or even just goals that are more focused on the end point than it is on the actual journey. And the reason I say it like that is because value driven goals, like some examples would be like building meaningful relationships with people, personal growth, creating a more balanced life, whether it be between like a work-life balance or focusing on yourself versus focusing on others, introducing more gratitude into your life, living a more sustainable lifestyle. They all have an end goal, but the goal is not to make it to the end goal. The goal is to have permanent change, in which it's kind of a decision that you make every single day of your life, and it's more about the journey than the end point. So that's kind of what I mean about value driven goals versus like success driven goals, where like success driven goals are going to be more like I want to make this much money, or I want to see my face look like this, or my body, or my weight, or, it's something that you are working towards, that you see an end result for, that you might necessarily not see in your everyday day-to-day life. Like, you obviously are working towards it, but value driven goals are about making decisions every single day to be the type of person that you want to be. So you're creating a more intentional life by living a more sustainable lifestyle, by practicing gratitude and appreciating every little thing, no matter how big or how small. Having those relationships with friends and family and building meaningful relationships, you are enjoying the journey and the process more than you're caring about the end goal, because the end goal is what? Having a meaningful relationship. Well, yeah, but you have to continue that every day in order to have the meaningful relationship. You don't just reach that friendship and then stop, if that makes sense. So, a good way to do this is placing your intentions on your day-to-day life. So maybe you're creating morning and nighttime routines like we talked about last episode. Maybe you're setting clear goals. Maybe you are prioritizing what's most important to you every single day. And maybe each day that looks different for what goals you're setting and what's important to you that day. Maybe you've accomplished something new and now you're setting a new goal. I think it's important to really focus on decluttering your space, for one, because I feel like a decluttered space is a decluttered mind. And I think that a lot of people realize or don't. But essentially, I feel like your space, whether it be your room, your apartment, your house, your office, that is a reflection of your mindset. And if it's messy, you're probably not doing well. And so it just takes, some tips and tricks to learn how to declutter your space, and then all of a sudden it makes you feel so much better. Maybe you want to start all over, so you declutter and then you reset up your space. Maybe you want to bring in plants or candles or aromatherapy, with like a humidifier, mister, whatever you want to do to set up your space. Maybe you want to change the lighting. Maybe you prefer natural light. Maybe you want dim light. Whatever it may be, setting up your space to reflect who you are and who you're becoming feels so good. I feel like I do that every single time I move into an apartment. I'm like setting up my space and I'm like, this is what I want. Maybe you are creating clear boundaries. Maybe you are someone who struggles to create, set, and keep boundaries, and you are starting to create those boundaries with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your relationships, with your technology, because I know that's a huge one. Maybe you want to spend more time taking care of yourself, so you focus and practice on self-care to better yourself aesthetically, or maybe just to feel better about yourself, whatever it may be. Maybe you want to incorporate time blocking as a form of how you want to schedule out your day-to-day or your life. Maybe you limit your distractions, so you kind of throw away your social media, if you will. Maybe you want to focus on social media and you want to post content, but you don't want to be wrapped up in consuming the content. Maybe you want to work on personal development, so you start shadow journaling and you go to therapy, and if that's something that you want to do, you take medications or whatever you may see fit. If you are placing an intention with whatever you do, that is a start. Now, there are obviously going to be barriers that you have to overcome, such as your impulses and urges. For example, if you want to live a more sustainable lifestyle, but you've always been someone to impulse buy, maybe a good way to overcome that barrier is not only to limit your spending to a certain amount, but maybe you make a rule such as, if I still want this in 4 months or 3 months, I will buy it. For example, this Oura ring, I have wanted the Oura ring for probably like 6 months to a year. I finally bought it in December, and I was like, you know what? I want to really work on my health. I want to learn if I'm sleeping well, what I can do to better sleep. I want to learn how much I'm exercising and eating, if I need to exercise more, if I need to move my body more. I want to learn when I'm stressed and how I calm myself down. And the Oura ring kind of gives insights into certain things, using what it can measure. So that way I decided, after however many months to a year, that I was going to get it, and I did, and I'm very happy with my purchase, and so far I have been using it every single day. Now, with impulse buying, maybe you buy something and you're like, ooh, I'm going to use this every single day, and then you never use it. For example, I bought this Pilates machine, and guess what? I don't use it every day. I probably don't even use it once a week. And we're going to work on that, because you know what? I bought it and I want to make use of it. I don't want things to just go to waste, and I'm buying and consuming and not really actually using, or I just throw it away, or I sell it, or throw it into somebody else's hands and make it somebody else's problem per se. No, I don't want to do that. I want to limit what I am using. But I also, I know that Pilates is a great workout. I loved going to the Pilates classes. I just really don't want to go, because the Pilates studio that I went to wasn't really for me. It wasn't really fitting. I feel like I was spending too much money on classes when I could buy a $200 machine and go do it at home and have the comfort of my own home. However, it would be nice to get out, but you know what? I can go out in other ways, and I can use my Pilates machine as a form of exercise for when I don't have the ability to go to the gym. So impulse buying is going to be a huge one for me, but think about what it is for you. Maybe it's societal pressure. Maybe it's pressure from your family or friends. What barriers do you have to overcome in order to achieve your lifestyle or your intentional living? Some practical tips that I can give you would be to create your routines. So your morning routine, your nighttime routine, maybe you even create some sort of weekend routine. However, I do suggest that you give yourself some grace and some lax, if you will, because if you're always running off of a routine, it can get overwhelming, exhausting, and honestly, you might get bored or tired of it and just want to do what you want to do. I think that it's completely okay to have those days where you're free to do whatever you want, that you're not pressured or trying to meet a goal or trying to finish a to-do list, because it is exhausting and it is going to keep you in this mindset of I need to get this, and this done, and you're always going to be stressed. So create your routines and have your daily goals, but also live in the present moment. Don't always feel like you have to check something off of a to-do list. Just do what feels good. If you had a to-do list to do, but you know what, like the sun is shining just the right way and you really just want to go outside and read a book, like go do that. I promise you, like it's gonna feel so good to do what you want. Another thing is to simplify your life. So, for example, you want to declutter your environment. You don't want to overpack your schedule and stress yourself out. Like I just said, you really need to limit your to-do list and not overpack your schedule and just live in the moment as much as possible. Obviously, you're going to have things that you want to do and things that you want to accomplish. And yes, you're going to have to-do lists and schedules and all of that jazz. But I promise you, there is at least one day out of the week where you can say, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do. You can... Let's see, what other practical tips do I have? I would say practicing gratitude. I feel like it has been a thing lately where a lot of people say practicing gratitude in your life really changes your mindset. And I think it makes you more intentional because you are practicing your viewing your surroundings. You're practicing your appreciation for your surroundings, appreciating and noticing what's going on around you. So it's really living a more intentional life by practicing gratitude because you have so much more to focus on rather than your tunnel vision. I would say another tip is to have personal growth or personal growth goals. Whether you want to be a healthier version of yourself, you want to eat healthier, you want to work out, you want to, shadow journal to heal your inner child that was wounded, like whatever it may be, personal growth is just one of those never-ending goals, like these life goals that just don't end. And it can be intimidating, but at the same time, it's like I wake up each and every day and I choose to focus on being a better person than I was yesterday. I choose to wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to choose happiness today. I am going to choose calm today. I'm going to choose peace today. I am going to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday. I am going to constantly grow. And if I keep saying certain affirmations and keep telling myself that each day is a new day, I don't have to worry about how far up the stairs I've went, or how far up the stairs I still have to go. I can just focus on making one step at a time, and it seems so much more achievable that way. So I think it's a good way to look at things when it comes to those kind of never-ending goals. I would say another practical tip is to have a work-life balance. You do not want to spend 24/7 at work, especially if it does not serve you, especially if it does not pay for your lifestyle, especially if you grow importance on relationships with people. You know, maybe you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a significant other or a fiance or a best friend that you want to focus your energy and attention on rather than work. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we do not live to work. I'm sorry, but I work to live. I work to live. And while I do enjoy my work, and while I do want to climb the ladder at work, and while I do want to see myself grow and succeed at work, I keep my work and my life separate. And I have a balance between the two. That way I can focus on being my best self and show up for work at work and show up in my personal life when it's my personal time. I would also say celebrate your progress, no matter how small. For example, if you got out of bed and brushed your teeth today, fucking great. Congratulations, because some days it is so hard to do that. Some days it is so hard to get in that shower and just clean yourself because you are just in this funk or you're not feeling the greatest. Like, celebrate your progress, because it does not matter how small it is. I promise you, it is still important. It is still important to take care of yourself, to brush your teeth, to take that shower, to exercise for 30 minutes. It is not always done, and it's not always easy. So celebrate your growth and celebrate your progress. I don't give a fuck if you drank 3 glasses of water yesterday and you're celebrating the fact that you drank, your 8 glasses or cups or whatever you're supposed to drink per day. Like, celebrate that shit. Be proud of yourself. For real. Anyway, self-care. I think self-care is always going to be important. I think in this day and age, we really put an emphasis on it because we are a burnt out generation. We are tired, we are exhausted, we are constantly trying to get that coin. We're constantly trying to live so that we can afford rent. Not even like a nice lifestyle, just like rent in general. I know that we are a tired sum, and we are literally just trying to do our best to get through our day to day. So taking a moment for self-care, appreciating yourself, and just taking care of yourself however you see fit, whether you want to entangle in a book, whether you want to take a nice bath with some Epsom salts, like, I don't care what your mode of self-care is, whatever it is, do it and really take in that moment and live in that moment. I would also argue to say another practical tip is to limit distractions. And while taking in content is not necessarily something that I want to do, I still do it. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, because obviously you probably wouldn't be watching me otherwise. But I think it's important to make sure that if you are consuming content, that it's practical for you and it doesn't make you feel like shit. Because if you are consuming content and it makes you feel like shit and you want to go create some unhealthy habits because of what you just consumed in terms of content, that is not content for you. The content that is for you is going to uplift you. It's going to make you feel motivated. It's going to make you feel like you can take on the world, or at least the day. That kind of content is absolutely acceptable, and it pushes you towards your higher self and a better version of yourself. And I am all for that, babes. Speaking of your higher self, I feel like it's very important, and here's another practical tip, is to live like your higher self, to live like the version that you want to be. Now, this is, what's the word? Controversial in a sense, because no, I'm not saying to spend like you have $1 million. No, I'm not saying to eat like you work out 24/7. No, I'm not saying to go ahead and splurge like you're a famous TikToker. I'm saying if you want to be a famous content creator, create quality content. Focus on the substance of your content, as well as the lighting, the audio, whatever it may be. And that's something I need to listen to, because I'm like this when I hear that. I don't always take my own advice, but that's maybe something I need to work on, and that's okay, because I can recognize that. Maybe your long-term or higher self, the vision that you want to create, maybe she does make some money. Okay, so go make that money and say, this is for me. If you want something, if you see something that you're just like, oh my God, I wish I could have that. No, you say, this is for me. Money comes easily to me. I don't have to work hard for it. And remember that. Remember that you don't have to bust your ass for a paycheck, bust your ass for a coin. Like, no. Just do what makes you happy. Go through life and remember that none of this is going to matter in the end. And I know that that sounds so dark, but it's true. Because there's the side that people see where they're like, oh my God, like everything, or they're like, oh my God, nothing matters. Like, no matter what I do, no matter what life I create, like, I'm gonna die. Well, the way I look at it is, oh my God, nothing matters. Like, if I make a mistake, it is not the end of the world. Like, I can just fix it. I can just say, I fucked up, and fix it. If I have a bad day, I don't have to make myself feel bad for having a bad day or for being depressed. I can just wake up tomorrow, because it's not the end of the world. It doesn't matter as much as I'm making it seem to matter. It's not the end of the world if I don't get this thing, or if I don't accomplish this goal, or if I don't get this car or this house or whatever ridiculous, unattainable, or even attainable goal. Like, you have to remember that this lifetime is not about end goal, it's about experience. And I fear that I have missed that point quite often, and I want to make sure that you guys don't either. I would also say another practical tip is to practice compassion for yourself. And that goes kind of based off of what we were just saying, how I was like, nothing matters. What I mean by that is you should not be beating yourself up for every little thing that you do wrong, because you know what? You're human. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that when you fall down, it is okay, that you can get back up, that you've done this shit before, that you've got this, and live a more intentional life, okay? Put more meaning behind what you do. Whether you create content and you start to realize, wow, I don't want to do XYZ. I want to create more substance behind it. I want to be more goal-oriented. I want to teach people things. Whatever content you want to create, go ahead and do it. Whatever life you want to live, whatever changes you want to make, go ahead and do it. Live a more intentional life that is based on the values that you have. Create those goals based off of those values, and I promise it will feel more fulfilling. Like, I can't even tell you, me creating this podcast and completely changing the way I wanted to do this podcast has made me feel more fulfilled. Like, I used to come on here and talk about my ex drama of whatever happened in 2022, and I was being messy, and half of the time I was going all over the place with my podcast. I didn't know what I was saying. I was repeating myself. I was using it as like a therapy session and just getting shit off of my chest. No, that is not me anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't want my podcast to be that. I don't want to reflect that into the world. I want to teach you guys what has worked for me and what I think is great. I want to be like a big sister and be like, hey guys, like I tried this today and it felt really good. Or these are like some steps and tips that I used for this and I want to share it with you guys because I think it'll work for you guys. You know, I don't want to be this messy person that just like throws all her shit out there, because that's just ew. Like, it's cringy, it's gross. And maybe having and being a part of drama was like cool back then, but like we're out of high school. I'm literally 27. I don't know what I was doing back then. I don't know what version of myself I was back then, but I can cringe at myself because that was disgusting. Like, I can look back at my past self and be like, what the fuck was she even doing? Because no. And I think I've reached that point in my life where I look back and I'm like, what the fuck, Marissa? Like, who did not tell you to fucking stop? Because what is that? Like, I don't know. I just think that it's really important, and it's a really pivotal moment in your growth when you can look back at yourself and be like, that's gross. I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. Like, I'm so glad I've evolved or learned from that in any way, shape, or form, because that is not who I ever want to be associated with, even though it is yourself. Like, you just look back and you feel so disgusted because you're like, wow, I've definitely grown. Because like, if I was me in that moment, I would think that I was the hottest shit, and like, I wasn't. Let's be real, I wasn't. So I don't know about y'all, but living intentional and intentional living can mean really whatever you want it to be, as long as you are placing an emphasis on putting meaning and substance behind what you're doing. And that's really the basis of it. So whether you want to be healthier, eat better, whether you want to build your meaningful relationships with friends, whether you want to have personal growth, whether you want to have a better work-life balance, whether you want to live a more sustainable lifestyle, whether you want to practice more gratitude, whatever your goal is, take it and start living it. I challenge you to come up with 3 value-driven goals and put it to the test. What do you want to change about yourself, and how can you start today? I will leave you with that, and I will see you guys next week on Many Mistakes Ago podcast. Love you.